Welcome to the Low Carb MD podcast. No one is beyond help. No one is beyond hope.
As we have always said, we are bringing you medical information and cutting-edge science, but none of this is medical advice. Please seek out input from your own doctor.
Hello and welcome back to the Low Carb MD podcast. Tro, today we have the voice of reason here.
Oh yeah,
Amy Berger.
keto without the crazy and breaking your weight loss stalls. I mean, she's done it all. Alzheimer's, Amy Berger. We're so happy to have you here. I know, we get to connect every once in a while, a couple of times a year at conferences and just in general. And it's nice to start the new year with some familiar faces and it's nice to see you again.
Thank you. You too. I feel like a repeat offender. I think this is my probably at least third appearance here, but that's fine. If no one else is bored of me yet, then I'm happy to be here and to see you guys again.
Now, Brian was like, "We have to get her on again." I was like, "Yes, we do. We have to." So we're happy to have you.
Yeah, we all get busy and we're doing our own thing, and then we figure out we haven't talked in a while. Let's try to reconnect.
Yeah.
And I know you always have great things going and great information, so we always learn something when you're here. So, and we know our listeners do too.
Thanks.
So what's up your sleeve? Amy, people who don't know you, tell people who you are, your background and all that, for the 5 people who don't know you.
Long story short, I'm a low carb and keto nutritionist and writer. Working on my 4th book right now, which we'll get into. Let's see. Really quick version. I was not always a keto nutritionist. I started out just as a regular person who was heavier. And I did what I thought I was supposed to do to lose weight, just like Tro did, just like you did, Brian, and didn't really go so well until I discovered a low carb diet. And I entered into this through the Atkins diet. And I've been eating this way for over 15 years now. Sometimes ultra strict keto, sometimes just lowish carb, but always some degree of carbohydrate restriction. And now, I changed my career to become a nutritionist and to help people with not only weight loss like I got into it, but my first book was on Alzheimer's disease. And there's this way of eating, so many of us are focused on losing weight and type 2 diabetes, but the research coming out now on psychiatry and so many other things is just mind-blowing. Like this, I think we can all agree, even though we are partial to low carb, there's a lot of different ways to lose weight. There's not a lot of ways to treat multiple sclerosis or to treat, to reverse non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, to reverse PCOS. Keto does all of that. There's not a lot of ways. Lipedema, nothing touches lipedema except keto. So keto is way more than just a weight loss diet.
Yeah, I think that's a huge point. All the researchers, they're talking about weight loss. They're not talking about subcutaneous fat, visceral fat. They're talking about emotional stuff. And, they lock some rats up in a lab and they, starve them for a week and they go, look, this is what you have to do. Well, they're not going through divorces and stress and life and emotional stuff. And, one of the big things, and I think we can all agree too, and Amy, I appreciate you being so transparent and sharing your struggles with depression and anxiety and things like that. And how the diet can affect those things. I think when people start realizing that's Tro and I have, we talked about it 4 years ago, and then, we got heat for it, but it's amazing now that the science this is what we were seeing. We weren't making it up. Our patients are coming smiling and happy again, and they feel like exercising. They're not saying, oh, I got to go to the gym just to lose a pound. They're like, oh, I enjoy exercise, I enjoy being active and seeing people. So I would love to hear your perspective on that.
Yeah, I totally agree. And you guys were kind of at the forefront of that. I remember you talking about patients' moods getting better and addiction tendencies were kind of falling by the wayside for patients. And like, nobody believed you, but you can't deny what you're seeing in your own clinics. I absolutely, wholeheartedly think that anyone with a mental health concern, whether it's depression, anxiety, bipolar, schizophrenia, autism spectrum, that's not mental health, but autism spectrum, all of this stuff, should absolutely try keto. because it's either going to work or it's not. I've never seen it make anything worse unless it's done improperly, right? Or if medications are not adjusted when they need to be. It's either going to help. It's going to help a little bit. It's going to help a ton, or it's not going to help. And I mean, how many people are suffering like crazy, and how much money is spent on drugs to treat a problem that could be fixed with delicious food? Now, but I do want to be clear, as much like always try keto, because if it works, great. If it doesn't, then we need to look at some other stuff. And for me personally, keto did not fix my depression. I wish it did. I wish it did. If somebody would prescribe me ribeyes and roasted Brussels sprouts, sign me up. But I had to go another route, but that doesn't change my understanding of how much keto can help other people.
Look, can I just say something? When somebody gets an infection, me and Brian know that you want to keep the blood sugar low. Like, you don't want it to be too high. If you have a sepsis, right? They aggressively manage people's blood sugars. They don't want it going too high, right? So, and you can impact that with diet. But many people take medications for infections, right? They take antivirals, antiparasitics, which Brian is a fan of, and or antibiotics in some cases, right? So, and we have no hesitation using these medications when our body needs help. I mean, we live in an amazing world. You can go back. Medicine has been used for thousands of years. In fact, some of the medications we use now, like, for blood clotting or heart attacks, were literally pulled from the tick, the tooth of a tick or the teeth of a leech, right? So we've literally taken, which is what they used for therapy hundreds of years ago, right? But the bottom line is we have no hesitation, if our bodies cannot handle something, to use medications or use something to augment it. And I think what you're highlighting here, and you're highlighting with your own story, with mental health, is sometimes we need meds, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need intensive counseling, and that's okay, right? I mean,
Yeah.
some people, are, and bottom line is, that you're absolutely right. A ketogenic diet can help so much. Literally been shown to decrease the need of anti-seizure medication and alcohol withdrawal. It's literally been shown to help in inpatient schizophrenia and bipolar, with current trials ongoing. And as far as I remember, Brian, it's been used for seizure prevention for I don't know how many years, right? I think it's about 100 years. Do I have that right? So I'm with you, Amy. So what made you, you've been pretty vocal on social media about kind of some of your mental health struggles, and I think that makes you so relatable. Have you found that some people are like, no, you just need to eat more meat to cure your depression?
Unfortunately, I have found that. I have found some people who want to insist that is automatically a fix, and I look, never say never, but do I think it's the broccoli that's causing this? No, because I just recently, I just saw Brian, well, not just, it feels like just when I saw you in San Diego, that was in August. It feels like just. I wasn't doing so well back then. I was in a really bad state. I'm feeling much better now because I'm taking some treatments that I wasn't at that time. And I had some extensive testing done, and there were some real hormone imbalances that I don't think, a carnivore diet, ribeye and salt, is not necessarily going to correct all that. And maybe in some people it will, but I just don't think that a couple of sprigs of asparagus is what caused that problem.
What about the carrot shavings? Is that the carrot shavings in your
Well,
salad?
no, that's what gave me diabetes. No, just kidding, everyone, for everyone who doesn't understand the sarcasm.
Okay.
No, and really, I have actually recommended the carnivore diet for some people when I thought it was warranted. I'm not opposed to that. And there are people who have had miraculous transformations in that. I just don't think that that was my personal situation. So I don't want to poo-poo that, but it is frankly insulting and rude for people to kind of insist that well, you just need to stop eating cauliflower, or you're not eating enough steak. Like, you don't know anything about my situation, and you feel like not you personally, you're obvious, but the peanut gallery just wants to chime in with all their stuff. And I'm like, it's, because when it's the people who have had the miraculous transformations that kind of can't wrap their head around the fact that somebody else could try what they tried and it doesn't work, or it doesn't work the same way.
Yeah, that is a huge thing. I just noticed that just yesterday, the tribalism that happens. And when you get so caught on a certain topic, like the carnivores will fight over whether you have organs or not. Is it like, because it didn't work. I didn't respond. Well, what works for you? Like Brett Lloyd has had a great, his story is amazing. He went carnivore, and depression, anxiety, mental health issues improved dramatically. That doesn't happen for everyone. I love that you can come out and say, okay, I tried keto and didn't improve my mood. So now what? Right.
Yeah.
So other people say, look, we're for my neighbor, so I have to do it. I'm not doing it right. Or the doctor's thinking they're not doing it right. But sometimes fasting helps. Sometimes there's so many, and the vegans will argue, you have to be raw vegan. Oh, no, you cook your food. Oh, gosh, you're using. And you say, what works for you ultimately, right? I mean, ultimately, does fasting work? And you feel great if you're Jason Fung? I'm not going to argue with you. It's working. Right. And some people, it may not be the right thing. So we have to have that open. And that's what I love about all three of us, actually, say, okay, this isn't working. We got to change something. Let's change a variable and see what happens.
I will say, I mean, because I don't want people to get the wrong idea of, like, I think people who know me won't get the wrong idea, but even through the worst of the depression and the worst of everything else that was going on, keto didn't fix it, but I can only assume how much worse it would have been if I wasn't doing a low carb diet. Like, how much worse would I have felt? How much more dark would everything have been if my blood sugar was all over the place, if I had gained 30 pounds from binging on carbs? And so, and even health-wise, I'm still concerned about my weight personally, but blood marker wise, it's like, okay, my triglycerides are still low, HDL still good, blood sugar still good. Like, I'm healthy, quote unquote. It's just something is off that's causing these mood issues and stuff. But yeah, I say keto didn't help, but I fully concede it's very possible that keto kept it from being even worse,
Yeah, no doubt. Go ahead, Tro. I didn't know.
I had it on mute. I was starting to talk, and then I'm like, oh, I'm muted. I didn't want the feedback to kick in. But 100%, I agree. I mean, we know ketogenic diets improve mood. I mean, this has been in the literature now over and over again. I mean, we talked about seizures, so very clear that it has an effect on the brain. But even for depression, there's some data, low carb diets improve depression scores. So, 100% right. I mean, it can help. Doesn't mean you won't need a medication. Like, it can help. Lowering your blood sugar will help your infection. Doesn't mean you won't need medication. Sometimes the body can handle it on its own. So have you gotten like pushback from people in the community that, how could you be open about your, use of medications, or, have you gotten any pushback, or, or not really?
Not really, but I honestly haven't talked much about what I'm doing right now. I mean, I've been very vocal about the fact that I'm on thyroid medicine all along. I don't even remember if I had mentioned to people that I've tried various antidepressants and that they were not that helpful, but I don't know why I wasn't more vocal about maybe those medications. I'm not ashamed of it. I guess I'm just a private person for the most part. It might not seem like that on social media, but I'm fairly private. And I don't know. We do poo-poo medication way too much in the keto world. And I actually have questions for you guys. These GLP-1 agonists and these new ones are all the rage. And a lot of people up in arms about it. Now, I don't think they're a substitute for a low carb diet at all, but we all know there's people who have a really, really hard time sticking to this. And if that can give them an extra leg up, I say, and like I know you guys consider obesity, I don't know if you classify it as a disease, but certainly it's like a chronic problem. It's a real serious issue for some people. It's not enough to just, oh, cut the carbs. Okay, great, I'm fixed, I'm cured. Some people need that little extra bit of help, and why shouldn't they be able to take advantage of what we have available to us today?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think you look and you go, okay, can we do it without meds? Are there certain problems that we really need to address? I've had people try keto and they're stuck, and you go, okay, let's try a different approach. So yeah, you want to use every weapon you have at your disposal, and that's why it's amazing to me when we start talking about low carb and these things. Well, low carb MD, we start talking about stress and faith and all these things, and people get upset, and it's like that's part of the equation, whether you like it or not. You look at the effect of stress, and I've this last year, I've noticed a ton looking at CGM data and results on patients. There is zero doubt that you get stressed out. Tro and I have talked about it from day one. Is number one problem stress. Number two, lack of family support, and those two basically go hand in hand. If you don't have, what Tro's doing with his app of getting people together and having a community, the strength of that is unbelievable. And we just came through 3 years of being totally disconnected. And so we're seeing the effects of that, and chronic stress and not sleeping and alcohol and all these other factors involved. So we have to look at the whole picture and not just say, okay, change your diet, everything's gonna be great. Go to church and everything, you're never gonna have a problem again. It's the same thing. We get this all or none mindset, and it's so hard to see the nuances.
Yeah, it's I've had clients, and you probably see this in patients all the time, assuming they're being honest with me, and if they show me a food journal or something, or they walk me through a few days of what they typically eat, their diet is great. And so I sometimes have to say, look, this isn't a food problem. I can't help you. There's another aspect of your life that's interfering here with with your weight or with your mood. And so I'm not qualified to do that. I can just tell them, I recommend you find this other type of professional or get counseling or something. It's it's surprising how often that happens. I mean, very often it is the diet, but that, you can't just address the diet. And I think the interesting thing is, I want to say the funny thing is, but it's not funny. It's easy, as hard as it is for some people to change their diet, it's easier to change your diet than it is to go to marriage therapy or to change your job or to move to a new town. So it's almost like you want the food to be the answer because it's so much easier to fix that than it is to fix some other massive aspect of your life.
I want to just people get mad at us for talking so much, but I'm so passionate about this. In fact, what we're going to be talking in Boca literally less than a week from now is, how do you tell the difference between who needs a nutritional message and who needs something else, right? And this is such a critical thing, because if you have somebody who needs something else and you tell them, here's page 4, it's not exactly going to be the right fit, right? Like if somebody, has a severe lifelong issue with food, right? And they, have, as long as they can remember, wanted to lose weight and have intense feelings of shame and guilt and have a sort of a learned helplessness, defeatist mentality. If they don't know how to manage their stress and their emotions, if they don't know how to manage their feelings of deprivation, a nutritional message is kind of like setting them up to fail. And I think you're right. Most people probably coming to us, if the nutritional message would have worked, right? And sometimes it does, they wouldn't be here. Like if just lower your carbs would work, I'd probably be out of business, right? I mean,
Exactly.
Am I right, Brian? Like if am I right to say that? I mean, I'll tell you, the nutritional message is so powerful. In fact, Dr. Laura and I, we bicker back and forth on how important behavior and psychology is, and
that's the key. That's the key. Because you can know, I have people, and we all know people like this. They know every fact about it. Like me, if I read about golf, I can read every book ever made about golf. But if I don't go out and golf, I can't do it. You got to do the game. So that's why, I laugh when the med students who have never seen a patient yet are saying, oh, these guys have no idea what they're talking about. we have clinical experience. There's nothing more profound than that to say, okay, we change this variable and we see what happens, right? And so when you start seeing results and you go, okay, does it work for everyone? No. It would be a lie to say every single person that walked in, they all lost 80 pounds and everyone was happy and everything was perfect, right? We have dropouts. We have people who just, they know what to do, but they just cannot give up chocolate. They cannot give up candy. They're stressed, they're depressed, they're anxious, and they need something to fill that. Until you find that peace, right? You find the peace and you're going to be that much better. You know, I think habits, we do habits, not just because, you know, we get that big reward right now. If we eat a cookie, we feel great right now. We might feel, but then the same person might beat themselves up for 4 days. And then they're so depressed, they go, I can't even do this. I'm not even gonna try. Instead of saying, okay, how do we get back on track? So it's that course correction, right? We do something, it doesn't work. Is okay, let me course correct and not just throw everything out and say it doesn't work.
That's resiliency, right? So that's resiliency, and it's lacking, right? So excessive self-blame is like that hallmark in somebody who needs help with psychology and behavior, right? So the excessive self-blame and the lack of resiliency, it's hard. It's hard to give people that if you can't help them manage their, you know, happiness, their boredom, their loneliness, their despair, their feelings of deprivation. You know, if, you know, every time you go on a date, you just lose it because you eat whatever your date is eating, you know, that's a problem. If you're depressed, alone, and everybody's asleep and you're eating, well, that's a problem, and no nutrition will necessarily solve that. So I'm with you guys. Amy, thank you for bringing this up, because it is just, this is medicine. This is real coaching, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you guys are talking to someone who has spent about 40 years steeped in a terribly negative, self-defeatist inner monologue. I do the loop because I'm old enough with the cassette tape. You know, like this is it's not a DVD, it's not an MP3. This is like the cassette reel rolling in my mind, or call it even an 8-track or something. A turntable, whatever. And it's, I have put so much deliberate effort into starting to change that, because I don't really like where it's gotten me all these decades. Like, has that served me? Has that kind of defeatist negative thinking gotten me where I want to go? Not really. But it's so, it's like I said, changing your food is easy. Okay, eat this, don't eat that, great. It's so much harder to reprogram that soundtrack. And because it takes so much effort. You've thought one way. It's like, let's say you're right-handed, and let's say you injure your right hand and it's in a cast or something, and all of a sudden you have to try to get everything done with your left hand. It freaks your brain out. It's different. It feels wrong. It's uncomfortable because you're used to doing it one way for so long, and now all of a sudden we're trying to do it this other way. That's how it is with your thoughts. I'm still in the place where I have to deliberately put effort into, like, no, we're not thinking that today. We're gonna go with this other thought today. Even if I don't believe it, I can just say, you know what, we're not going there today. I'm gonna go in this other direction. And eventually it becomes more comfortable, but it's a growth process. It just, but staying where I was, and for anyone out there, staying where you are, if you're in that place, that's not getting you anywhere. But it honestly takes a lot of effort to think new thoughts, because it's not natural. It is very unnatural for me.
Yeah, and that's what makes you so remarkable. You know, I mean, this is the intervention show. We're turning it into from a podcast to an intervention. But you know, Amy, I remember we talked before you talked, when before you talked and you were not in a good spot. You're struggling, and you get up on stage and you absolutely crush it, and you totally change lives. And when you have that, and people are blown away, and it's amazing how we can be insecure and not feel great about ourselves, and then you get up there and you just crush it. And it just shows your strength and your love of people, that you want to, like, even if you're not feeling it right now, that you're going to throw it out there and help people and overcome that. Because you could have just said, cancel, I'm not coming, forget it, I'm not in a good spot right now. Yeah, but, you know, stepping through that it says a lot about you as a person. And also, that saying, hey, look, I'm going to keep looking until I find the right thing that works for me, you know, whether it's thyroid, whether it's hormonal stuff. And So many times, and I would agree, you can't just throw page 5 in it or whatever page it is at someone and go, okay, here you go. You got hormone issues, you got stress at home, you're going through a divorce, you just lost your house. Those things are not, eating the right food is not going to fix the problem. I mean, that's the big thing that we're all talking about is like, okay, we got to look at life and are you content? Are you happy? Are you just exercising to lose weight? If you are, you're probably not going to enjoy it. If you're doing it because you go, I feel good after exercise and I get that dopamine rush. Okay, and then maybe we're on the right page.
Yeah. Yeah. Brian, I really appreciate that because I wanted to cancel a lot of the events I went to in 2022. I would have backed out if I could. And I was like, I can't do that to these people. I'm on the docket to speak. I already bought my plane ticket. Like I have to go. Oh, well, I guess I'll just do it. But it's, I'm not trying to like, I don't want to make this big focus on me. I want like, if anyone out there is in that place, if you are, I mean, you are just not alone. You are not alone. Not everyone in the keto world has it all figured out, however it looks on social media. Remember, we only see what people choose to show us. And then it's, how many times have we been surprised that something went on or something was happening that we didn't know about till it all of a sudden came to light. This person looked perfectly happy, perfectly content. So it's a rough world out there. It really is. So the kind of support that you guys provide is amazing. And I really, when you've presented, Brian, and you've shown patients CGM graphs, and you can see the effect of stress or the effect of like, I'll never forget the one you showed. You had a patient that was having quote unquote panic attacks. And it wasn't really panic attacks. She was hypoglycemic. And I feel like that, I think 90% of road rage is probably hypoglycemia. People behind the wheel just tanking.
Yeah, and there's studies on that, in prisons where they give them more carbs and guess what? They get agitated and they get more violent. They take them away, they do better. So, we know it's true. I mean, you hop up some kid on sugar and see how they act. That's why I laugh when that pediatrician from South Africa tried to harass me because I'm like, you've never heard any of these things? You don't think like people say I need an extra cup of coffee to get going in the morning. I need a glass of wine to calm my nerves. All these things we rely on food as our, some people it may be cocaine. Some people it may be pornography. But for a lot of our patients, it's food. And, it's one of those things, and I know Tro knows this is that the day before someone consults with me, I would say 90% of the time that weekend before, they're eating donuts and cookies and they're eating all the crappy stuff because they go, he's not going to let me have that stuff. So I'm going to get it all in now and enjoy it. Right? Because it's such a bond. It's such a thing. Instead of saying, oh, let me start tapering it down. You don't just run a marathon on the first day. You have to get ready for that. So that's what's amazing about what we do. It's just, we see all that in people and ourselves too. We learn from ourselves what works and what doesn't work and then tweak something.
Well, I have some questions for you guys. I don't know if that's okay for me to ask you questions.
Yeah. I have some for you too.
More for me, but there's, I guess, am I allowed to name names? We all know and love Kevin Hall, right?
Oh, geez.
I don't know.
Is that a swear word around here?
Hall monitor, you mean?
Hall. It is a 4-letter word.
Yes.
No, he's a researcher. I respect anyone that's trying to help people with this research, but all of these studies that keep coming out about weight loss and obesity and this and that, if they, correct me if I'm wrong, they seem to think that it's all about calories, too much energy in, not enough energy out. And all they're trying to do now is figure out, why are people eating too much? Is it because it's ultra processed food? Is it because of the carbs? Is it because of this? When I'm thinking, look, guys, if you already know the answer or what you think is the answer, people just eat too darn much. If that's the answer and you answered that question 40 years ago, A, why do you still have a job? B, why are my tax dollars paying for this job? And C, if that's the answer, then we don't need to keep spending millions of dollars on research to answer the question. What we need is exactly what you guys are providing. We need support. We need to find ways to get people, and if any diet can work, if any way of eating can work, and I'm not saying we believe that, I'm saying that's what that sort of group believes, then what we need to do is find out which type of approach someone likes the most. Do you like low carb food? Do you like vegan food? Do you like fish? Do you like Japanese food? and then get a counselor, get a therapist, get a doctor, get a team to help that person. Like, I don't understand, why are they still trying to answer a question they answered 50 years ago? If people just eat too much, then we need to redirect these millions and millions of dollars to support, to get these people to eat less. And I'm not saying that's what I believe, but this, every time a new study comes out and it makes a huge wave on social media, I'm like, stop it already. This just constant hamster wheel of nonsense that's not actually helping anybody.
Amy's just bringing common sense here again, Tro. We can't allow this on the podcast.
Yeah, well, let's talk about this. So, you know, the energy balance idea, right? The energy balance idea, you know, it has a basis in truth. It started from scientists trying to measure the energy in food, right? Measure the energy in food. What happened is it became very clear that different foods have different addictive potentials. And so industry very quickly needed to support messaging that that places the blame for their addictive food on the user, right? And doesn't build awareness around it, right? So if you have tobacco, you don't want people to know that tobacco is potentially addictive. You'll go on, you know, air and say, you know, every single executive will say tobacco is not addictive. So what happened was the entire industry, you know, just said, we're going to support the energy balance theory. And they literally, Coca-Cola has literally funded the American Dietetics Association, the American Academy of Family Practitioners, the ACP, and the AMA. Okay. And the American College of Sports Medicine, right? Okay. Like literally bribes. And this is Gary Ruskin from US Right to Know, who I've been begging to come on here. Hopefully will one day. So this is where energy balance comes from, and it's been propagated for a long time. It's your fault. You have to control calories. Now, this is where it gets really funny, because they've been saying ignore hormones, nothing to do with hormones, not hormones. Obesity is not hormones. Okay, it's not your hormones, quote unquote. This is what they've said. It's not your hormones. And then, lo and behold, pharma says, "Oh wait, we have a drug."
I'm sorry, people that are only listening to the audio podcast and not watch can't see me laugh.
You can't see my
it's not hormones.
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
not hormones in the
yeah. We're smiling
environment.
and laughing and smug.
Right, so they don't see my smugness. They know my New York City smugness. So okay, so now there's a drug, and you kind of alluded to it, that impacts hormones. And what does it do? Right, it literally mimics a low carb diet. It stabilizes blood sugar, and it delays gastric emptying, right? These are the two main mechanisms for GLP drugs. In fact, we know that if you give people fat and protein, their GLP levels go high, right? Giving them that sense of fullness, and the CCK that's released delays food from passing in the gut. And that's why when you have protein and fat, you're fuller for longer. You won't reach out for food for 3 to 5 hours at least.
Plus, you're not having the instability of spikes of insulin and glucose and cortisol and all this stuff, and balancing hormones, all this.
Nice stable blood sugar. So now we have a hormonal drug that works so beautifully for weight loss. And all of a sudden it's like, wait a sec, take this hormonal drug. Everybody's like, take this hormonal drug. Before it was calories, calories, calories. Thank you, Coca-Cola. And it's not hormones, it's not hormones. And all of a sudden, right, it's just very quickly, everybody's a hormone zealot. And so what this tells me is that your doctors are captured. Your doctors and your industry is captured. And they will say anything. And they'll put the blame on you. So now obesity is due to a GLP deficiency. Meanwhile, fat and protein releases more GLP. And in fact, if you add carbohydrates to a fat or protein meal, it will completely inhibit any GLP that would have been released. So it's like we are living in I don't know what world we're in about calories. So you come back to calories, you mentioned Kevin Hall, you know, I find it very, very, you know, I agree with you. Defund the NIH. Defund the NIH, that's where he works. Defund the NIH. So there's that. You know, Amy Igus is going to be so upset that I said that, but you know, defund the NIH. You know?
Now that being said, right, there is the benefits of calorie restriction, right? There are benefits. Like you look at fasting, you look at, you know, the female menstrual cycle. You know, there are certain times of the month where you may need more carbohydrates right before you ovulate. Maybe your body's, maybe it's a physiological thing. Everyone I know, my wife, my daughters, they go, oh, I crave sugar right before my period all the time. And the other times they don't. Why? Is that physiologic? Is that, are you just a weak during the first? So there's definitely hormonal aspects of this, right? So that's a big part of it. But the reality is, look, you could be on a ketogenic diet and eat 8,000 calories a day and you're not going to lose weight. You can eat all butter all day. So there has to be a place where there's mental illness too, where people will just keep eating. Like they could eat 20 steaks, right? Most people have a steak or half a steak and they're like, I'm good, I don't need anything else. But you know, so there's so much more to it. But the reality is, if calories in, calories out worked, if they said just eat less, you'll be fine, everyone would just go, oh, just eat less. Oh, okay, I never thought of that, right? And then they go, well, if you skip meals, that's dangerous. Well, isn't that bringing less calories in? So is fasting bad? You look at the hormonal aspects of a short-term fast, like a 36, 48-hour fast, and you look at how your body reacts to that. You know, and so I have some people control their sugars. They do one fast and for 2 days, and they control their sugars for the next 2 weeks. It's amazing, you know. And so some people that may not work. So some people fasting, their sugars go up if they're diabetic. And you go, okay, let's figure this out. You know, they eat and their sugars drop because their body goes, okay, I don't have to release energy anymore. I'll just give what you're giving me. So it's really, our job is really, we can look at the benefit, thanks to Tro, is we have CGM data, we have blood pressure data, we have so many variables we can look at and say, oh, you're not responding well to this treatment. Let's try something different. But the big thing is, and I'll tell you all, this morning I had 2 consults that, we're following up. Both of them said, this is the weirdest thing. I'm not hungry all the time. Like when they feel that I'm not starving and I don't have to eat, I could skip snacking and lunch and I'm like, everyone else is eating and I don't want it. It's not willpower. They're just saying, yeah, I just don't want it. I'm not hungry. It's just like I just ate dinner and I'm not hungry. You know, that's a miracle in itself right there.
It's absolutely, that is a revelation for people that have never experienced it. And people sometimes get worried, like, what's wrong? I'm not hungry. I haven't eaten all day. Like, is this okay? And I didn't mean to give the impression that I completely dismiss energy balance. I hate that phrase even, but that, yes, it's possible to eat too much, even on keto. I've done it more than once, but even Eric Westman says that calories count. That matters. It just, ideally, when keto's done correctly, you don't have to count the calories because the appetite suppression is so strong that you just kind of naturally regulate the amount and the frequency with which you eat. But of course, like you said, there's a lot of us who will still overeat, even on keto foods. I can still quote binge, however we define that. I can overeat steak. I'll tell you a story. I remember being at Keto Fest. It must have been 2019, I'm sure. And a bunch of us had gone out because the whole town, they take over the whole town of New London, Connecticut. And a bunch of us went to one of the restaurants where they had a prime rib special. And I'm talking like a big honking piece of prime rib. And I was there with men who were twice my size. And they were eating and chatting and whatever. And then they were kind of done and they pushed their plate away. And there's still prime rib on the plate. And I'm looking at my plate like, oh my God, I want to polish mine off and then eat somebody else's too. And these men are twice my size. So even on keto, some of us just like to eat, or we feel some kind of compulsion to overeat. So yeah,
we're going to match you up, Amy, with Ben Bakikio and see who wins. Ben can
I don't know. Well,
he'll eat your food, any leftovers on the table. He'll search around. He'll go to the table next door, and this guy's a beast muscle guy. It's just hilarious watching him. Like, Ben, how in the heck? Like, if I ate like that, there's no way I could survive.
He and I have a special bond. We're both from Staten Island.
That's right. Yeah.
So but yeah, I think keto helps so many people in that regard, though. It helps control the appetite. Like we tell people, if people worry, should I measure ketones? What should my ketone level be? And I'll say, don't worry about measuring ketones. You'll know you're in a good place when you're just not that hungry. Like that's all you need to know. And they know, they can feel it when it happens.
Yeah, the problem is chronic pain, chronic stress, mental health issues. All of these things can, late night eating. All of these things are issues, that are independent of almost any diet, right? I mean, you can take a hibernating bear that's very ketotic, asleep, not hungry, and then wake it up, give it stress, put a birthday cake in front of it, put a birthday hat on it, light a candle, and see what happens. And it's not going to be pleasant, right? So I think the reality is physiology is very clear. There's something that sends that bear to be not hungry, not eat, and go to sleep. There's something that's there, right? And it's stable glycemia, ketosis, and some other environmental cues, right? But if we bring it into our modern world, give it mental health issues, stress, lack of sleep, and social triggers, right? And a mortgage payment to worry about, and a practice loan to repay, and student loans to repay, and 3 kids that are yelling, so two small businesses to run, I'm speaking for myself, then it eats more, it eats more. So sorry for the long-winded comment.
Yeah, and I think that's the point. Just like we always said, Troy, that was my thing, is like, okay, if you're drowning, they're telling you just breathe more air and less water. That's all you got to do. That's easy if you're drowning in the middle of the ocean, but you can only do that for so long. And how do you do it? So that's the problem, is the advice has been so terrible. Look at our society. We're a disaster, until we can start saying, okay, hormones play a role, and the funny thing is, these guys who criticize the low carb diet, if people are taking in less calories because they're having less hunger and they're less stressed and they're stress eaters, then what's wrong with that, Kevin Hall? That would be my question. It's like, okay, if that's our goal, how do we, it's great to say it's just like saying, okay, just, spend less money than you make and you'll be rich someday. It's how do I do that? That's very nice, but now my car broke down and I have to put money on my credit card, whatever, So I think that's the thing, is they say, here's what you do. And it's so obvious. You're right. Just shut down the NIH and stop doing these studies, or we do real studies with real people like Verta Clinic has been doing, and what you've been doing, Tro, and you go, okay, let's see what real people do. I don't really care what a mouse does. I want to know what my friend who's going through a divorce right now, who's stressed and tense and everything hurts. How do I help that guy? It's so easy. It's like, oh, alcoholism, oh, just don't drink. Then it's all done and you don't have to worry.
I mean,
it's not that
why
simple.
didn't I think of that,
This is why I love, Amy's books, the Stall Slayer, I think was the ebook, right? And then, why am I blanking? I read it with Eric West.
Alzheimer's Anecdote.
No, that was the
and
first
your
one.
carb confusion.
And your carb confusion.
Yeah.
It's so helpful because it really helps people understand the nutrition, and then understand also, to some degree, well, what are the pitfalls, and what, like, take it easy. You don't have to go, a very pragmatic approach to weight and nutrition. When's the next book coming out? You mentioned your 4th book, so
Thyroid.
I'm excited, so now you got me excited. So what's in the work? What's in the pipeline? Because really my dream is you'll go to NPPA school and then come work for me and with me and join the team. That's my real dream. So when's that happening? Brian, you can't
She's joining me. I've been so nice to her.
You cannot have her.
You have everyone. You got all the cool people. I have no one, Tro.
You're about to retire, man. You got like how many years left? Like 3 years left until you're 65?
No, I still got some time. I got a little bit of time. I just turned 53, so I got, I'll probably be 75 when I retire.
You're young.
I love what I do. What the heck am I gonna do, Tro? Sit around?
Listen, you let the whippersnappers take care of it. You can just you can manage,
I'm working on it. So Amy, back to you. What's your next book?
I stick a pin in that for 1 second. I just want to go back to something we were talking about before it's all well and good what happens to a mouse, or even to humans, in a metabolic ward, or where their food is provided and it's ideal circumstances. Okay, great. Now let's put them back into their real life, into their real world, with their job and their boss and the kids and everything. I think something that we maybe don't talk about enough, or you guys probably do, and especially because of the kind of like hands-on close monitoring you do, people need to understand low carb is not a zero-sum game. It's not like I'm 100% keto all the time, or I'm face first in donuts. You just have to, if you're going to have that moment and you're going to reach for the food or something, just don't let it become an 8-week bender. Let it be one meal, one day, and you get right back on plan. And don't spend 96 hours wallowing in guilt and self-loathing. You just get right. It's just food. And I think people need to understand, let's say you've been low carb or keto for a few weeks, a few months, a few years, and then you have a meal or a day or something off plan. You have not undone or negated all of the amazing things that have happened. Even if, let's say, yeah, your blood sugar is maybe 180 for a little bit, like, and you know, a little blip, your heartburn comes back for a day. You have not completely lost all of the headway you made. You're never starting. People say, I'm starting from scratch. I'm back at square one. No, you're not. You ate carbs for 2 days and you've been keto for like 8 months. This is not a crisis. And I think people, it is that really slippery slope. Have the moment, have the day, but then get right back. Because if you don't, I'll wait till Monday, I'll wait till, after the party, after the thing. No, there's no after the thing. Your very next bite, you can be back on plan. And I think
Amen.
that
Amen.
derails a lot of people too, when they just kind of,
Because you just give up.
blew it, I'll just blow it for the
Yeah.
rest of the month.
Yeah, you just give up. You know, like Tro says, you get one flat tire, you don't go and flatten all your other tires. You just go, okay, let's fix this tire. And so that's
Exactly.
what the importance of coaching and having someone in your corner. So many people that, you know, just that I talked to today and yesterday, you know, they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so bummed. Over the holidays, I only lost 2 pounds. It's like, how many pounds did you gain last year during the holidays? 10. Okay, so you lost 12 pounds. You should be happy, right? Because you're not starting 12 pounds heavier than you were. Look at that. That's a miracle, right?
Yeah.
And plus you had a little fun and you cheated a little bit and you did their thing. But that's the thing is like, hey, if you plan it and go, okay, next Tuesday night, I'm going to tacos and that's we do it once a year and that's my thing. And I'm going to do it and don't be sad about it. You already made that decision. It's in your control. The worst thing is go to taco night and they go, I'm not going to eat. Then go, okay, I'm going to have it. And then they binge on everything. And then they feel like a terrible person, right? It's that loss of control that's really hard for people too.
Yes.
Yeah, I think to summarize that, you know,
we want to hear about Amy's book, Tro.
Oh, just give me half a second. Preparing is 45%. The impulse, like riding that impulse, is like 10% of the work. Preparing is 45%. Eating before you go so you don't slip up, or bringing whatever you need. And then the other 45% of the work, as you alluded, is, you know, recovering as quick as possible, learning, figuring out how to improve based on your own vulnerabilities and your own shortcomings, and not lamenting and self-blame. The lamenting and self-blame, shame and guilt is a hallmark of addiction, right? It's a hallmark of addiction because if it's not a psychologically stressing issue, you'd say, wait a second, I just had a problem when I was on vacation. So next time I go on vacation, I have to be a little more careful, right? Oh, I just had a problem when I went, you know, to my holidays, right? If it's not an emotional issue, right, you should be able to course correct real quick. So if you see that excessive self-blame, it is very much a hallmark of some psychology and emotions that need to probably be worked through. So tell me about the book.
One more sentence about what we were saying. The excessive blame makes it worse, because then, and ask me how I know, then you start to think, well, I don't deserve to feel better. I don't deserve to lose weight. I'm just a fat loser. I'm a failure. It feeds into itself and it perpetuates that cycle.
Yeah, what's the easiest way to feel better?
Eat something.
Indulge in the problem.
Exactly. So acknowledging the feelings, knowing where it's coming from, which is addiction, right? And knowing where it leads to, which is addiction. And then, hey, what do I need to do? Like, can I get help? So a lot of times that's connection, right? Amy, you've talked about this, which is the opposite of addiction is connection, right? The opposite of addiction is connection. And so reaching out for help, that coach, you know, calling up Brian, calling up Amy, you know, calling them up and saying, hey, what do I do? How do I get better? How do I improve? You know, because every part of your brain is going to be like, you're, you know, don't tell anybody, hide, sneak, cheat, you're bad, you're terrible. And that's the addiction talking, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
In religion, they call it demons, you know, and demons are temptation, right? In medicine, we call it addiction.
Yeah. And if you cut the temptation out, guess what? You don't need willpower. So if I have to go to the donut shop every day and I'm like, oh, I want to, just don't go to the donut shop. You don't have to worry about your willpower, and you'll have a little bit more strength to do other stuff, you know? And you know, what the other thing while we were on the calories in, calories out, one thing I wanted to say is, you know, we had a client that he wanted to lose weight. He lost a fair amount of weight. He couldn't lose weight. He was trying to get to his high school weight before his class reunion. And he was drinking diet soda. Like he had everything right. He was drinking like a big gulp of diet soda every afternoon. That's the only thing. We stopped that. He loses like 8 or 10 pounds in a week. So you're going to tell me there's 0 calories in that? What happened? Where's your calorie model on that? I'm telling you, it's hormonal, and it has to do with the gut microbiome too, Tro. You're going to agree with me one of these days. That has a huge factor in all this stuff.
No, I'm a big believer in the gut microbiome. But that's we got to get our buddy. What's her name? That doctor from California.
Sabine.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll ask her. She'll come on. Yeah, we'll have her on. She's awesome. Yeah, you'll love her. She's great. She's a firecracker.
But anyway, I want to hear about Amy's book.
I know. Let's go, Amy.
Well, let get to it, Brian.
It's a thyroid book. It's my first book that's not really a keto book at all. It's all about thyroid, specifically hypothyroidism. We mentioned hyper very briefly, but it's basically about, because I see this all the time, and I'm not a medical professional, so I can't diagnose, but based on somebody's symptoms, I have intake forms, and based on all the stuff they're going through, I can identify undiagnosed hypothyroidism, or people that know they have a thyroid problem because they're already taking medication, but the medication is doing nothing because they still have all the signs and symptoms. And a lot of people come to me because they're struggling to lose weight. And again, if they show me a food journal, tell me what you eat, and I'm trusting them. And even based on the blood work, they have stellar blood work. They have the blood work of someone who is spot on a low carb keto diet. Like there's no doubt, the A1C is 5.0, the triglycerides are 42, like it's spot on, but they cannot lose weight. And I look at all the other stuff, and of course, so the book really is it's intended for lay people, but hopefully some professionals will pick it up. I'm actually writing it with a nurse practitioner. She's in the OMA, so you guys might know her, Carol Rosemith. She gives some talks or poster presentations about thyroid there, and it's kind of like in the low carb world, the way we interpret some of the quote unquote normal ranges or reference ranges for certain things, we look at them differently. Thyroid, it's a minefield. The normal ranges are abysmal. So somebody could be told, well, you're normal. I don't know why you feel so terrible. And it's because those ranges are not appropriate. And again, this is one of those things that keto doesn't always fix. There's a lot of people with Hashimoto's, specifically the autoimmune thyroid. Keto and carnivore seem to do really well for that. They can reduce their meds, stop their meds sometimes. There's a lot of other things that cause hypothyroidism that keto does not fix. And I see so much. I mean, most of my depression was thyroid related. You've probably seen me. I always say, anyone that pulls up my YouTube channel, if you pull up like all the thumbnails at once, you can see my face getting much bigger and much smaller at times. And my diet has been the same the whole time. It's the thyroid medicine. So there's just so much unnecessary suffering out there by people who don't know that something's wrong and it's fixable, or people who, again, are already on medicine and they haven't questioned, why do I still feel terrible?
Yeah, you're the one who said to me about, certainly, not forgetting T3 supplementation, not just looking at the TSH. And you're absolutely right. In fact, some of the guidelines are shifting to be more aggressive with how, not accepting these big lofty TSHs of 5. A 5 TSH in somebody with hypothyroidism is probably under treatment. And the
it definitely is
that way. Yeah.
Well, exactly. And then you have to look at T3 and T4 and what you're giving them. And if they're not converting their T4 to T3, the active thyroid, because they're so stress intense and their cortisol all through the roof, that's where low carb and keto, I think, fits in. I start seeing improvements. The one thing I would love to ask you, Amy, and I don't know if you've looked at this, is the anti-thyroid antibodies and, the autoimmune stuff. Do we see changes on a ketogenic diet of decreasing those antibody levels or reversing that? Has anyone looked at that?
I don't know that there's like a lot of research on it. We got to get all you guys with guys and gals with clinics to get all the data together. But yeah, that Hashimoto, so the autoimmune, does seem to be the one that improves the most with the keto or carnivore diet. But I don't know that there's any, published stuff on that, but I'm actually giving a talk about this at Low Carb Denver. It'll be the first time I'm like talking about something that's not specifically keto, but I know there's going to be a lot of medical professionals in the audience, so hopefully this is going to open some eyes, and you'll get the nutshell version of the book in Denver, basically on stage.
And that's awesome. That's a huge deal, you know. And as a matter of fact, I was one of my old partners was an endocrinologist. He goes, "No, TSH is all that matters. Don't look at all the other stuff. That's a
They
waste
are
of time and
very
money."
the
And it's amazing how it
endocrinologists
is.
are
It's
the most
amazing.
conventional.
No,
That's amazing.
They've changed slightly, but not quickly enough, right? And that's what they taught us, Brian, right? They taught us TSH. That's it.
TSH, that's it. Nothing else matters. But you look and like, if we're replacing T4 all day long, but it's not converting to T3, guess what? It's not going to help you. You're not going to feel great.
There was a great, to go between weight loss and thyroid, there was a great study that's basically predicted of people who are not obese, so who are just normal weight, underweight, or overweight, what determined their weight was highly correlative to their T3 production. Okay, was like the most, you know, between that and their baseline appetite, right? They had low appetite, so the thinnest people had the lowest appetite, highest T3. It was like, you know, that was the most predictive thing, you know, of long-term weight loss and metabolism and maintaining a low weight.
Yeah, this is my surprised face.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm shocked here. I mean, they're mowing the lawn outside my apartment. I hope the mic isn't picking it up, but with the
No, you're good.
I see
Oh, good.
people all the time. They're taking a statin because their cholesterol's high, and they're taking an antidepressant. And the one thing that they actually need is the thyroid medicine, because both of those things are coming from low. So, I mean, the whole entire system suffers as a result of this, because billions of dollars have to be spent on unnecessary drugs because the actual problem is not being treated. And then, I just lost my whole train of thought.
No, but that's an action.
no, I
You get
mean,
your
you're
train of
right.
thought,
It's
but
like,
I mean,
yeah, that's
I
huge.
know.
And because if we fix the thyroid, the LDL will change
yeah,
dramatically a lot of times.
my cholesterol dropped 70 points, 70 points when I got on thyroid medicine. And I didn't care that my cholesterol was high. I wasn't afraid for my heart. I took it as an indicator that the thyroid hormone is not where it needs to be. So I see that. And doctors are and we have whole chapters on this in the book. Doctors are very hesitant, not only to prescribe T3 at all, but to prescribe it in high doses. However we might define it, they're very skittish. And the thing is, there's side effects of every drug, and yet we routinely prescribe medications that are far more dangerous, have far more serious side effects. Those are given out like candy. For some reason, T3 medicine specifically is like the third rail. Nobody wants to touch it. We become so terrified of a level of risk that we routinely accept a far greater level of risk with other drugs, and I don't know what the disconnect is there.
The disconnect is that they're not looking at the long-term effects on the patient. You know, I mean, that's one of the things is a lot of times you're saying, you know, patient comes in with 20 problems, they got 8 minutes, they're not going to be looking at thyroid. That's not going to be on their list. And that's one of the big deficits of medicine right now is doctors just don't have time to take it. Like you said, I could tell from my history that this person's hypothyroid. Guess what? The doctor's not taking a history like that because they're thinking, okay, I got 8 minutes with this patient. Okay, what's that? Your knee hurts and you have a headache. Okay, let's give you some Tylenol and let's do this. You know, that's the problem. Medicine is a problem where the doctors, their clinical experiences. You know, the most important thing we have is a clinical history. When you talk to a patient, go, okay, tell me what happened when you went carnivore. What happens when you were vegan? What happens? And then we know. But if you don't have time to talk about those things, how often is that diet addressed and sleep and stress? Hardly ever. Like when I have patients come in all the time and I'll ask them about their stress level, they go, wow, you're the first doctor who asked me about that. Why is that important? Well, let me tell you how much time you got, you know? And so, you know, all these things play a factor, but but that clinical history, so you have the time. That's why doctors need people like you too, and say, oh, doctor, did you think about this? Oh, no, I didn't think it. I mean, you and I have had conversations. You're like, Brian, this is thyroid for sure. This isn't keto, no problem. And we fixed the thyroid. Guess what? Now they're responding. It wasn't the diet that was the problem. Is that we had other hormonal stuff in thyroid. And that's why Kevin Hall, you know, I don't know you personally, but these are things you got to look at and go, we can't just say, oh, it lost 2 kilograms. Well, how much of that was muscle? How much was fat? How long are they going to maintain this weight loss? That's the other thing. The other thing that came up, I was thinking is, I was thinking about while we were talking, it's like, okay, if that was true, then every single person on Weight Watchers would succeed. Every single person who has ever done Nutrisystem or Jenny Craig or all that we'd all be cured, and everyone would be skinny because, all we do is have them package my food in a certain quantity and calories and I'll be good. It doesn't work that way, people. Trust me on this one. We know the success rates.
Yeah.
Less than 3%.
Less than 3%.
Wow.
And that's not even sustainable. I mean, they may be 3%, they reach their goal weight, but then how long do they sustain that? We've all seen the liquid diets and all this stuff. You lose muscle mass and you gain it all back plus some. Anyone listening knows that. Plus, your body is not dumb. If you starve yourself forever, then you're with 500 calories a day, then all of a sudden your body goes, okay, I'm going to hold on to stuff. It's not that simple of an equation.
We have a whole chapter on that in the book. My co-author, Carol, she calls it famine response hypothyroidism. And it's basically where people have eaten, women specifically, men can get into this too, but it's far more common in women. They've been restricting calories so much and over exercising. Of course, your body, as a favor to you, as a protective mechanism, is going to slow your metabolism. It's not going to let you get away with that forever. And it's not easy to get yourself out of that hole. It's not easy to repair that. So
when's your release for the book? I want it. Do we get pre-release of our friends and stuff?
So I was initially going to write it on my own and it would be out already, but then I teamed up with Carol. And so it's going to be a while yet. I wish it would be ready for Denver because I could have a table there and sign it, but it's probably going to be several more months, but hopefully sometime like late spring, maybe.
Whoa. In San Diego, when you come to San Diego, by then we can talk about your contract.
Oh, by then.
Not true.
Not happening.
I'll just be bi-coastal. That's cool.
Sunny, you know how nice. No wonder you've been depressed. You're in that gloomy weather. Come out here. We have sun. You go outside. And you go, oh, it's
no. She's got to go back to where she came
from.
Staten Island. So she's got to come back to New York. We'll take you from anywhere. Actually, we'll get you licensed everywhere. You don't have to move anywhere. We'll take care of that.
I got to get through PA school first, but nobody I'm contemplating it. I'm thinking about it.
Are you really? Yeah.
The biggest issue is that despite being a clinical nutritionist for 10 years, I lack a lot of the prereqs that they need for, like, I would have to probably take a year and a half to 2 years of prereqs before starting a 3-year PA program. So that's not a deal breaker, but it makes it a lot more onerous,
Yeah,
I'm looking for like an angel investor. If anyone listening out there wants to put Amy through school, we'll consider that option. But no, so it's not off the table, but having to go through all those prereqs first definitely makes it less appealing.
But how about people who want to use you now for your nutritional advice and all that kind of stuff? How do they reach you and track you down?
Yeah, they can go to stallslayer.com, STALL, like a fat loss stall, stallslayer.com, and there's a button that says work with me. And right now, the quickest way, so I guess this is live for your patrons. If it goes live next week, I'm not sure. We have the Keto Made Simple course with Dr. Westman open, and he teaches the video lessons. Like, not really a whole lot of better people to learn from than him, but I'm in the background helping, answering questions, troubleshooting. I also do live videos. So that the Keto Made Simple course, that's at adaptyourlifeacademy.com. And I'm on Twitter, I'm on YouTube. People can find me, Amy Berger, Keto Without the Crazy. So I don't know what we don't have a title for the thyroid book. It's not going to be thyroid. I'm thinking like End Your Thyroid Confusion, but I don't want to go there.
That could work. And your thyroid, there's a lot of.
It could. We'll have to see.
You know how many times we've heard, and the patient was probably right, but how many over the years they said, I think it's my thyroid. Yeah, how many times I've heard that? I think it's my thyroid. No, it's not your thyroid. It might have been the thyroid, but we missed it. It isn't
always. I don't want to it's not always the thyroid. I do see a lot of it because a lot of people come to me who are stuck in fat loss.
But a lot of it too is the thyroid is in, when you're having autoimmune problems, that kind of ties back to the gut and what you're eating and emotional stuff. Stress affects the gut microbiome, and all these things are so interrelated that you know, you fix one, it may make the thyroid a little bit better, and you fix the thyroid, it may make that one a little bit better. You know, it's not just one way signaling; it's bidirectional. So it's exciting. You know, I think at the more we're around and stay humble and say, okay, let me just keep an open mind and look at this. Could it be the thyroid if everything else isn't going right? Could it be hormonally related? So, especially in women, guys are less complicated. I've learned over time, Tro.
Yeah.
I think also it's the nature of autoimmune disease. You know, most doctors just don't even think about it. You know, so I think this book and the lecture. I can't wait to see you in Denver. It's going to be fun, and I can't wait for the book. You got to let me know. And then, you know, New York is better than San Diego. You know, San Diego, I feel like, is it communist yet there yet?
No, San Diego's actually, we're pretty decent down here still.
No?
We're still all right. I'm in a little bubble.
Neither place is cheap, right? Either way, rent is going to be astronomical. So that's sort of even, I guess, right?
You can move to Idaho. We'll still take you. Okay, you can move to Idaho. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, I'm gonna get licensed in a bunch of states too. So we'll talk. We'll figure out a nice state for you where you can settle down, be happy, enjoy life, take it easy.
It's a
give
plan.
wisdom, help our patients, make our life easy.
All right.
All right, guys. This was awesome. Thank you so much, Amy Berger. Where do people find you?
I kind of
She
gave it
just
before.
said it,
They
didn't she?
can. Yeah, go to soulslayer.com. That's my actual website, nutrition.com, still exists, but I never use
You don't
it.
use
It's
it
in
anymore.
desperate need of overhaul, so I don't even tell people to go there anymore. But if you want to read a treasure trove of old blog posts, old articles, nutrition.com.
Yeah, there's great stuff there. Really good stuff. I think you have thyroid stuff on there too.
I do, yeah. And
Have you changed your opinion
go to my
since then?
YouTube channel and search for thyroid. I have a bunch of videos on thyroid too.
Awesome stuff.
Thank you so
So
much.
when the book comes out, we'll have you come back. We'll talk about it and get it in our patients' hands. And then
Sounds
they can come
great.
to us and say, you told me this, Amy says you're wrong. And I'll have to deal with that. But I'm okay. As long as we get the patient better, we're good with
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
So Tro, any last words of wisdom?
No, I'm just excited now. I get to see Amy in Denver. Now I got something, you know, it's going to be fun.
Yeah, Denver's going to be great. I won't be in Boca though, so have fun there.
Brian, are you going?
I'm not in any. I'm working. I gotta hold down the fort here. So next time I get to go to Utah. The Keto Chow people were so nice to invite me out to let me do a little talk. And I'm gonna do something with the Noakes Foundation. So that will be fun. So I'm still staying busy, but I just can't go socialize for a while.
All right, guys. Thank you,
All right.
Patreon supporters. Brian, thank you. Amy.
Thank you, Tro.
All right,
Amy,
guys.
awesome.
Happy New Year to
Good to see
everybody.
you. Thanks a lot.